Mental Health Monday on Radio City Talk with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Yeah, my name's Mick Coyle. Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday. And I just wanted to mention, it feels like just a few days ago we were on our day of action on mental health. And thank you to everybody who supported and took part in the day last week. And it really was quite the moment for so many people. Organisations, 30 plus organisations coming on the programme talking about the work that they were doing now, the work they'll be doing in the future, and how you can make connections with them. Your local services, don't forget, can be found as ever on the Hub of Hope as well. And I think they had an extra something like 200 people go onto the Hub of Hope specifically on Monday looking for services. So that's not just people who took part in the training and thought, I'll find out what this website is. This is people who are looking for services in their local area. And off the back of the programme that we did last week, 200 extra people did that. So thank you for everybody who took part in it and spread the word about what we were doing. Our work continues here at Radio City Talk. Our guest on the programme today, really interesting guest, Dr. Jenna Kenyani. Now, she's going to talk about the work she's doing through universities in particular, but also she's got a blogging and streaming service that you can check out via Instagram, also on YouTube as well, under the title Me, Myself and My Dementor. We're going to talk to Dr. Jenna now. She joins us on the programme. Dr. Jenna, how are you? Thank you for your time.
Hi, nice to speak to you.
Really interesting things you do. Many different aspects to this one as well. You're a Time to Change champion as well, and you're sort of renowned for your honesty when talking about your mental health, living with mental illness as well, and unspoken truths, which is a really interesting aspect of it, because of course so many conversations around mental health, even in sort of those who are more enlightened, there's still different things that are sort of stigmatized, things you aren't certain about whether or not you're allowed to say. Even something that you might have a piece of information about yourself, you decide to hold back because you think it's maybe not right to share in certain environments. And I guess through the work you do, speaking to so many different organisations, you get a sense of what each of those key messages are and the things you want to tell, share, the ones you want to keep for yourself maybe.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first started giving my talks, I wasn't the sort of person that opened up quite easily. I didn't really sort of talk about my own experiences very often. It took me a long time to be able to sort of open up to the people around me. And when I was looking at trying to understand more about mental health, what I found quite a lot was that a lot of the talks and the things on YouTube and etc., that you could find at the time were people sort of talking about what mental health was, very clinically, like this is what you will experience, this is what it is, this is what it does to you. And what I really wanted to do was kind of have what I wanted personally was trying to find out, was I normal? Is this what everyone else goes through? And so I guess that's where I started with these sort of talks. I wanted to give people an understanding of what it was really like to live with these horrible illnesses. So that my first talk was the unspoken truths about living and working with mental health issues. And I cannot explain how terrified I was to do that. Like, it was the first time I'd so openly talked about what I was going through. And then because of the response I got, it kind of really pushed me to keep talking and to encourage other people to talk, but also to understand that not everyone can talk. It isn't an easy thing. It's not something that people can suddenly start doing just because they're told it's a good thing. It's very personal. You feel very vulnerable doing it. So, I think if there are people that are able to do it, like myself, then I think it's important because it's helping others be able to have a voice in a way. So I guess that's where it all originated. That's the reason why I wanted to do it. It's not easy. It's not easy talking about mental health. Like I said, it was the most terrifying thing that I've ever done. And at that point, I hadn't really even spoken to maybe friends and sort of some of my family knew, but some of my friends didn't. My colleagues at work certainly hadn't. So it was a massive thing for me to open up. But actually, it's been one of the best things I've ever done.
It's interesting that off the back of just the show we did last week, the number of people who said, oh, the bit where somebody said, and it was just like a part of a sentence or a particular phrase, that really resonated with me. And it may be related to something that was in the training, something an organisation said, and often maybe there was that. And I always find those conversations amazing because you're always looking to create something which is relatable, that can touch on somebody and they go, oh, that sounds a little bit like me, or I recognize aspects of that as well. But when you make those connections and people come to you, you get a little sense of them as well. Was it quite sort of life affirming, heartwarming to see that your experience, once you shared it, was actually something that people related to, could offer an insight potentially into as well?
Oh, massively. And I mean, that was why I wanted to give the talks, because I wanted to know if I was alone. So for me, it's like it worked both ways. It was an amazing feeling seeing other people connect to what I was saying and helping them maybe feel like they're not so alone, that they weren't the only ones feeling this. But it was amazing for myself as well. Like you said, it's that connection to other people, I think, is really important, and kind of knowing that this isn't something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be embarrassed of. And it is sometimes like the little things that people come up to me and go, oh yeah, you know what, I feel really guilty about this. Or I've had a panic attack about that little thing that you said you had a panic attack about. And it's really nice to know that, you know, I think because of the stigma, I think it's, you know, you feel like you're the only person, that you should maybe not say all those little things. Maybe you'd hide them away because you're not normal. No one else goes through this. Everyone else can cope with, you know, this little thing happening to them, or, you know, I can get upset about the smallest thing sometimes. And I think, oh God, everyone else can cope so much better than me. And then I'll give a talk and someone will come up to me and go, you know what, I actually cried this morning because, you know, I spilled my breakfast down me and I just couldn't cope. It was the last straw. And I'd be like, oh my goodness, yes, I do that all the time. Like, you know, actually we're not these awful people. We're just people trying to survive. And it's okay to sometimes go, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm not doing very well.
There's your YouTube channel. We'll point people in the direction of it through our social media, and we'll offer a link as well on the program today, Dr. Jenna. There's one of the talks you give through that is about change. I think it's absolutely fascinating. It's completely related to it. That idea of sometimes any aspect of change in routine, your own personal circumstances, or even the circumstances of other people, makes you feel at times incredibly uneasy. And I think particularly in the world we're in at the moment, you know, where things are supposed to be changing and things are getting better, but are they getting better, and are they getting better for everybody, and are they getting better for us? We're in this period of flux as well. And absolutely I related to those points you're making about change, which a lot of people sometimes roll with the punches and they are happy that things are changing all the time. But it's okay to say, I just like things the way they are. That's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and also just to, even if you end up being okay or things get better afterwards, I think it's just acknowledging that it can really throw you. Like, change for me is a massive trigger. The smallest change in my life, and it can really set me off with like my, you know, struggle with my mental health. And I think it is really like, you know what, it is actually okay just to be like, you know what, actually I find this really overwhelming. And that was one of the reasons I did that particular section on the YouTube channel, is because I was really struggling with the current environment. You know, there is so much change, and it's going to continue changing, like, you know, for weeks. And I just felt like a lot of people didn't want to kind of acknowledge that they were struggling because of the change. And I just wanted to let other people know, actually, you know what, I do not cope with change. So, you know what? It's okay if you're not coping either. And like you said, the little things, the changes to other people's lives can have an impact. And I just don't think we always allow ourselves a moment to just acknowledge that it can, you know, it can be a bit hard. It can throw you. It can be unsettling. It can be overwhelming. You can feel panicked and you know, anxious, and all those other crazy feelings that come with it. And that's okay. Like, I think for me, it's just like letting people know that it's okay to have those feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Jenna Kenyani is with us on the programme today for Mental Health Monday. Can I ask you about labels, Dr. Jenna? Are there particular labels from the mental health world that you subscribe to, that you put yourself under? Are there things which, when you hear about, you think, yeah, that's me specifically? Labels like anxiety or depression, you know, the panic attacks and things like that. Which of those are you most comfortable with subscribing to?
I would definitely say that I would suffer with severe anxiety, and I have suffered really badly with depression. I definitely have a lot of panic attacks. That is something I really struggle with. Other than that, I think labels, can be a very personal thing. Some people really struggle with them. I've got friends that have definitely had mental health issues. They have acknowledged that they are struggling, but they really struggle with the actual words, the actual terms. To them, if they say that they suffer with anxiety or they've got depression, it almost feels like I don't know, like they, sort of signed up for something. They've suddenly become this person. And I think a lot of people sort of assume that you're sort of put into this box, this bracket, like you are, like you have anxiety. That's who you will be for the rest of your life. And I do understand that a lot of people have a lot of concern about that, because there has been a huge amount of stigma, over the last few years. I would like to think that is maybe starting to change. So I don't personally shy away from it, because I think it's important to not be embarrassed about it. Yes, I have anxiety. Yes, I have had depression. They don't define who I am as a person. Like, I'm still Jenna Kenyani. That's what defines me. So but I think it should be a personal thing. I think, people have to be able to come to terms with what they're dealing with and suffering with themselves. And if they don't want to use those labels, that's fine. But there should be no shame or embarrassment linked to them.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing as well that people who, can be on any kind of spectrum in regard to those feelings and stress, anxiety, a million and one different sort of aspects of that impact on different people's lives, because the alternative is just for everybody just to be fine all the time. And to me, that it seems to me almost like weirder that everyone would just be fine all the time. Like, things that happen in their lives don't affect them, that if things come their way, it doesn't affect them emotionally. Part of me thinks that's slightly odder than people occasionally looking around at each other and going, is anyone else really struggling here? Because this is completely OTT. It's completely out of my comfort zone. To me, that's almost a normal response, that if something new is coming your way, you don't know about it. So, of course, there's a sense of trepidation that can bring with it a million and one different emotions. To me, that feels like a really human response, as opposed to just thinking, yeah, whatever for everything.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think, I can't imagine there is a single person out there that can honestly say that they don't feel anything, when anything happens to them. I think the biggest thing is kind of just understanding that it's how quickly those people that are suffering with mental health can bounce back from those things. And I think sometimes that's often what's lost. Like, for someone that maybe isn't struggling with anxiety or depression, when something comes along and they will be hit by it, and they'll maybe they'll feel a bit overwhelmed or a bit worried, maybe a bit down or upset or sad, whatever the situation is, but it doesn't continue for a long time, so they can come back up. And I feel like one of the things that I found sometimes that people don't always understand is that they're like, okay, well, that thing's happened now, so why haven't you got over it? Like, why is it still bothering you? And I think the hardest thing is explaining that the reactions you have to things sometimes go on for longer, sometimes can be maybe much bigger than other people's. So something very small can set off a huge reaction, a huge anxiety attack that for someone else might have just maybe set off a little bit of worry. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of understanding those slight differences rather than you don't feel anything at all.
Can we talk about the title, Me, Myself and My Dementor?
Yeah.
Some people will read a Harry Potter reference in there. Is it a Harry Potter thing?
It is a bit, yeah. So I was a massive Harry Potter fan in my youth. It was kind of saved me through school sort of thing. But the reason I use it is actually because of my mum. So I've been suffering with mental health issues for about 10 years now. 10 years ago, it wasn't something that was really talked about. There wasn't a huge amount out there. And when I was kind of trying to explain things to my mum and how I was feeling, the one thing I kept saying to her is like, this is when I was severely depressed. I was like, I felt like I had been sucked. Literally, I felt like everything had been sucked out of me. I felt hopeless. I felt so dark, so down. Felt like all the colour had disappeared from my world. And as I was kind of describing it all, my mum sort of said, God, it sounds like you've got a dementor. And that was her way of trying. She was like, you need your Patronus. She was like, come on, Jenna, you can fight your dementor. You know, you need to find your way of battling it. What can we do? What's the happy things you can think about? What are the positive things you can think about to get your Patronus to kind of protect you from this monster that is sucking all the happiness or the hope or the life out of you. And so I guess that's where it came from. It was kind of that. I'm a very visual person, so I'm dyslexic, so I like to see everything in pictures, and sort of having a visual representation of what I was battling really kind of helped me. So that's why it's me, myself, and my dementor, because it's very much inside my head. It's very much a me and my battle, something that no one else can really help with, and it's against this awful monster.
And do you get a sense that, and forgive me how Harry Potter references here, do you get a sense that there is something of you which is the silver bullet to the Dementor, if you like? The Dementor is of you and where your head's been at, but also the solution to that is also based within you as well, and it's about finding that within yourself.
Oh, 100%, 100%. So I have I've had a lot of different types of counselling over the last 10 years. Some that's helped, some that haven't, but I'm currently seeing a therapist that really is helping, and that's definitely something that I'm working on quite a lot at the moment, is finding that inner me again, that sort of really happy, bright sort of, again, it's very visual. Like at the moment I'm standing on this sort of dark cement with rain pouring down, and I'm looking to cross over onto this sunshine, and there's that sort of, it's coming from inside me, it's me stepping forward. It's me that's going to fight that dementor. It's me that's going to sort of step back into the sunshine. And so, it's definitely from inside.
And I guess it's great that you're able to think about that on your terms as well, because I think one of the issues as well with a lot of people, particularly around depression, is that there's a sense that that's just who they are, and the feeling that they have when the dementor is there, that's the real you, and the other you that was happy, that was just you. But you'd just forgotten that actually things are actually really, really bad. And this is how you feel about life. And that is such a difficult place to ramp yourself out of. You can fall into it quite slowly, but it can be really difficult, can it not, to jump out that and remind yourself that this isn't the real you. This is the dementor kicking in.
Oh, yes, so much so. And I have been there so many times where I just had no belief that this was ever going to get better, that I was ever going to be anything but this depressed, dark, miserable person. There were times when I felt like I just didn't know who I was anymore. Like I just felt like this is who especially like I said, it's been 10 years for me. That's a long time. It's like, who was the person before? Was that even the real person? Is this the real me? Is this who I really am? And it's a horrible, horrible place to go to forget who you are and to think that you can only be miserable. There are times when I feel like I haven't deserved to be happy, that even if I could be happier, even if I could fight the dementor, that I don't deserve to be. This is who I should be. I should be miserable. It's really hard. And even when I feel like I'm getting into a better place the first time in 10 years. And I still have days where I feel like that. I still have days where I, like you said, believe that I can't be anything but miserable, that I can't be anything but anxious. And then I'll have one good day. And my goodness, when you have a good day after so many black days, it just feels incredible. But the worst bit about it is that the next day when you don't, because that feels even harder to go up and then come back down. And when you come back down, then you're like, no, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. I can't have that good day again. And it really takes a lot of strength to keep fighting. And I don't think people really, who haven't been through a mental health illness, sometimes understand that even though it doesn't look like you're fighting, even though you might be saying, I'm only going to ever be like this, I can't do it anymore, I can't fight anymore, that actually it takes so much energy every day to say to yourself, come on, just get through one more day. Come on, you can have one more good day. You know, it is a real battle. It is a real battle. And it's not easy. And I have been in some dark, dark places I don't wish on my worst enemy. But I am in a position now, which I honestly at times never thought I'd ever say this, but I actually can see those good days come in. I can see that there is a light out at the end of that tunnel. And I honestly asked me this 2 years ago, even 6 months ago, I don't know if I would have said that. And that's an incredible feeling to know that there is a chance to be able to kind of, I know I'm never going to not have black days. I know that it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be wonderful. But I do know that those good days will come back and that there will be more of them. And maybe it'll get to a point where I can have equal amounts. And that is an incredible thing. And once I know that, I'm like, yes, I can do this. I can keep fighting. I can keep fighting my dementor. I'm going to do this.
Jenna Kenyani's our guest on this week's Mental Health Monday, being brilliantly honest about her own experience of her own mental health. I think as well, you mentioned there, sort of 10 years ago and where you were at, and the way that the public was at. I think we have moved forward to a certain extent, because I can remember, in my early 20s, going through a similar time that you've just described there, and having absolutely no sense that this was anything other than just me being an adult and not enjoying really adult life and not being able to cope with the stresses and strains that adult life brought with it. There was no conversation out there about it's okay to not be okay, about thoughts and feelings and how you could cope or learn to cope with. That just didn't exist at all. I'm going back to the turn of the millennium now. But so I had a period of time, of say 10 years of coming out of a period of time of what I now would class as probably quite severe depression, and going, oh, so that was what that was for an entire period of my life, which I just thought was just a really difficult part of my life, because I wasn't very good at coping at stuff and I wasn't very adjusted to adult life. Whereas actually, if I'd have heard conversations like the ones that you share through your social media, through YouTube, I'd have gone, hang on a minute, that sounds like me. Now, my hope is, Jenna, that people will, of the younger generation, hear conversations like yours and go, that sounds like me. And they'll do that right at the start of those feelings. And they'll make those connections really early on. And those interventions come in really early on, so that somebody can get access to treatment or help if they require it, to change their paths or learn to cope with their own headspace, where their head's at any given moment, because there's a normality to that and there are systems in place to that. And that's got to be the place we're moving to in regard to mental health, hasn't it? Because if it's not, we're going in completely the wrong direction.
100%. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. I was the same. When I was, to be honest, I probably started even earlier than maybe 10 years ago, but that was when it became an issue in my life. And the same thing, there was no one to have those conversations with. I remember feeling really embarrassed about it. It was the same thing. I just can't cope. Why can't I cope? Why can everyone else cope? It just must be me failing at life, trying to cover up for it, trying to, beating yourself up more and more about it. Because the more you couldn't cope, the more you felt like you were the failure. And not really knowing anywhere to turn or to talk to. And then I remember I got the diagnosis and just being like, well, what on earth do I do with that? There didn't seem to be any help. There was nothing there. I remember hiding it from friends. I didn't want anyone to know that I had it because I felt embarrassed. And I definitely think that if there was more support, if I was able to go and get something earlier on, I don't think it would have been 10 years later that I'd still be suffering. I think I would have hopefully been able to find those tools to move past it before it had got so severe, before it had taken over 10 years of my life. So I totally agree. I think it's so important that people get help at the beginning. And I think there is still a little bit of a stigma around going to get sort of counselling or therapy. But I just that really needs to change, because if people can't go and get support and advice right at the beginning when they're struggling, then it's only going to get worse and worse and worse, and then it's a much longer process to come out of it. So I know, I totally agree with you.
I can see it in photographs. So if I look at photographs of myself during a certain period of time, I can see it in myself. You know, when people don't think, I would never have noticed, you never gave any impression of it, but I can look at a photo and go, I can see it in your eyes, Mick, there now. And that's quite a strange thing to be able to see in yourself, even though anyone else looking at the same photo would never have made that connection.
Oh no, it's such a lonely place, like to feel inside your own head and to be going through all of that on your own. And like you said, no one can see from the outside. It's not like a physical, illness, is it? It's not like you suddenly come out with warts when you've got depression, so everyone can go, oh, that guy needs some help. But yeah, I know what you mean by looking at photos. It is like that cloud, that dementor, like it's following you. Suddenly you kind of, the whole person isn't there anymore. Like, you're fighting a battle inside yourself, and so you're not quite yourself. But I think it's really hard for other people to see that. And again, I think that's another reason I wanted to give these talks. It's not just for those people that have mental health, but those people that don't, because I think it's really, really hard to understand what you've gone through. You obviously, we can have this conversation. We both understand what that time was like. But if you've never gone through anything like that, it's actually quite difficult. And that makes it quite difficult to look out for those signs as well. So, I think it's important for us all to be talking about it, not just for those that are suffering, but also for those that haven't, so they can be there to help kind of pick up on that and support each other.
And just in terms of the work you do now through the university, when you're speaking to staff there, are you finding that the people are largely open to that conversation now? Or are you still finding sometimes a little bit of a brick wall of people going, what are all these problems that have just emerged? What's this mental health thing that suddenly everyone's now talking about?
I think it's definitely, the conversations are definitely getting easier. So I do a lot of work with PGR students. So that's like PhD students and master students. So I think for students particularly, there's definitely a huge shift. I think there's undergrads as well. There's a lot of support out there now for undergrads. And so there is a change in conversation. I think people are being made to be more aware of like looking after their well-being, looking after their mental health the same as their physical health. When it comes to staff, sometimes that can be a bit different. I think the conversations are definitely there, they're definitely happening, but there is still that, I think people still feel reserved because of that stigma that's been there for such a long time, and I think sort of the older you are, I think you've seen some of that stigma and what it can do to people's lives and careers and things. So I think it's hard to let go of that worry and that concern. But for me, most of the time when I give my talks and all the work we're trying to do, it's been such a positive reaction. Every member of staff and students seems to be really wanting to kind of take it on, because people are seeing that it's such an important thing. That most people have someone that has suffered with it. I mean, it's 1 in 4 people. That hits home.
Absolutely, it does. Jenna, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us on the programme, sharing your journey and offering us a little bit of an insight into the journey that you've been on in your life so far. Good luck with everything as you move forward as well. Look forward to catching up in the future with the work you do. Social media, good place to go for this one. Instagram, Jenna's name on there, Jenna Kenyani. But also if you look for or Google me, myself and My Dementor, you will find the link through YouTube, which is a good place to go as well. And we'll get all the links up on our social media too at Radio City Talk. Dr. Jenna Kenyani, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us on the programme.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
And we'll speak again, I'm sure, very soon. It's Radio City Talk. Don't forget, if you want to find mental health services close to where you are, head to hubofhope.co.uk. That's hubofhope.co.uk. They've got an app as well that will provide you with links to mental health services close to you as well. Links on there to Samaritans if you want to get the connections there, and the helplines and various tech services that are available too. hubofhope.co.uk. Type in your postcode, you'll find the services close to you.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.